doing, Mark? Things
Morning,
going
Mr.
well?
Keagy. Yes, sir. How
Good
are you,
seeing you
sir?
today.
Good to
Good.
see you,
Good
sir.
seeing you.
Yes, sir.
Here's how things going today.
You
Things
good?
going all right?
Yeah.
Good, good. Samar, how you doing?
All right,
Things
doing
going
fine.
well?
Yes,
Had a
sir.
good week?
Great.
Great.
Awesome
Russell,
job.
how you doing? Are you okay? You look like you're.
That's a
Hold
fun
on,
weekend.
hold on. Why are you tired today?
It was a long weekend, man. A lot of stuff to do.
Long weekend?
Yeah, stay
Okay,
awake.
completely understand that, for sure. For sure, completely understand that. Well, guys, I appreciate you coming today. We're gonna start with a word of prayer, and then we'll get into the meeting quickly. Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you for these young men. I pray that we as teachers would glorify and magnify you. I pray that our school culture would be changed, Father, no other way except to make much of you. We ask all these things in your name. Amen. Well, guys, I gave you guys a homework assignment last time we met, and we talked about three things. We talked about changing the school culture, and I believe one way to change the school culture is to make sure that we greet students at the door. And when we greet students at the door, we're looking in the eyes, we're having great eye contact, we're asking if, Don came in and like he was tired and wanted to make sure, hey, are things okay? Because we will have students like that. We looked, I think Mr. Murray and myself yesterday at one of the doors. We were greeting students as they came in, and we commented as we were talking to students, there's a few students that didn't even make eye contact with us. They didn't want it. They avoided eye contact, and they just kept on walking. We have to address those students with that. So how did it go? That's the first thing. How did it go as far as greeting your students at the door in your classroom? What are some of the things that you saw or didn't see?
When I greet my students, generally they look at me and they come on into class, and if they're not moving at 100 miles an hour, we usually speak to each other.
Okay.
But as I get ready to go up to the front of the classroom, I do have all eyes. So.
Okay. You're maintaining that eye contact even as you go up.
Yes.
Well, it's good. Anybody else?
Yes, I think like you said yesterday, I mean, you have certain ones that make it an effort to greet you and to make the eye contact when you're speaking to them. Then you have ones, and it's probably the same ones repetitively. So I think the ones repetitively who are not doing that, you've got to try to set that aside and try to work on them individually. So.
Has anybody had a redirect with students that are not making the eye contact, coming through the door, and kind of like getting maybe sluggish or just not ready to look at you, talk to? Has anybody had a redirect in the last week or two? Anybody?
One that was noticeably down one day versus normal. It's not a student who's very open and, hey, how you doing this morning? But they were very, very down, and so kind of pulled them aside as they crossed the crosswalk. Hey, you doing okay? And turns out there was something bothering them, and they said, yeah, can I come talk to you later today? And so we ended up in a meeting off of that, because I don't know if they would have asked,
Right.
had I not said something and noticed, and then, since I showed an interest, okay, then they actually initiated, can we talk later?
Yeah. Well, so you're good. You're good at, and I hope we all would be at reading body language of students.
Mm-hmm.
Shoulders slumped, no eye contact, maybe tired, maybe upset. Visibly sometimes young ladies that come to class visibly upset. I had a student last week came into class and she was in tears, and I called her to my desk. And when students were doing assignment, I said, "Are you okay? Things okay? Things are okay. Are you okay? Okay. Just want to make sure with that." Pierce, how things go with your class?
I mean, it's pretty chill when they come in. It's just like, hey, what's up? And we're like, so we talk a little bit as everybody's getting instruments out and things like that. Usually float around and stuff like that. So
Okay.
yeah, actually, most, especially middle school, most of them are they're not the kind to kind of be in their own lane too much. In fact, it's sometimes almost a little too excited.
Right, too excited, too jacked up.
Yeah.
Good. Now, if you were to redirect students when they were coming through the door or leaving your classroom, you get the chance to greet them, how would you redirect them? What would the response? I'm asking you, what do you think the response would be of the students if there was a redirect that would take place?
I think it probably depends on the student. I mean, some students we've discussed it before, and I was just saying other settings that some students, like Mr. Russell said, they will kind of want to know that you have concern, you know what I mean? Other students, it doesn't really matter, but if you have that one that just, okay, well, let's talk about it later on, come to my office or whatever, it means a lot to them, so.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have a two-way street. I have to, be in a position because of what I do as my regular job versus what I do as a teacher is on a redirect, okay? Am I just trying to figure out what's going on, or is there something I need to correct? And, a lot of times, it could be just a student maybe not paying attention to something, and you're just trying to speak to them and get them in the right way, or, maybe something in which you have to correct for a student, and, you really don't wanna do that in front of everybody, so.
Okay, so you don't wanna make them upset in front of everybody, and call them to the side after class, whatever it might be. I think it's important to set the expectations out front, right? If you set the expectations, hey, for the remainder of this year, I'm gonna be at the door, I'm gonna greet you guys as best I can every day coming through the door or leaving the classroom. And when I ask you something, or when I greet you or talk to you, I expect to have some type of eye contact. It's not gonna be a long, awkward, weird eye contact, but there will be some type of eye contact that's taking place. And I think if you set the expectations out front, coming through the door, it just should be automatic. And the students that are tired or not, you could address that. Well, we'll talk about that later. You could address it that way. That was the first thing. We talked about having school culture, creating this school culture with having that personal contact with students. But the second thing is this. Remember we talked about these uniform class rules? And I didn't get to touch on this, guys, but what are some of the class rules that you have in your classroom that could be applied to the remainder of our school? What are some of the classroom rules that you have in your classroom? Do you want to share?
As far as uniforms?
Well, as far as the class rules that you have on a daily basis, that maybe other teachers, we could be unified in sharing those exact same class rules.
I think we all want to make sure that when we're up speaking or guiding the class, that all the eyes are on us and all quietness is done until we get through speaking or asking questions.
Okay.
Everyone remains quiet.
Everybody remains quiet. Okay, good. Anybody else?
It depends on the situation. Like, for example, I've shared before my discussion rules in classroom, because when you transition to a U1 interaction, I've got 3 discussion rules. One is anybody can talk, as long as it's on the topic. If you get off topic, okay, you might say, everybody else can talk, you can't now, because you can't stay on topic. You gotta be on topic. You can't interrupt anybody else, which is a respect issue, which I think is pretty universal. And of course, if I have to speak, then everybody stops, because I'm probably redirecting or correcting what's going on, or focusing on what our next discussion is. So basically 3 rules, don't speak when others are speaking, stay on topic, of course, never speak when I speak.
Right, don't
And
talk when I'm
to
talking.
follow that, we're in pretty good shape, but a lot of that is mutual respect.
Okay.
Both for me as a teacher in a position of authority, and then for each other.
But you've established that up front, and they know the expectations, and they
Yes.
follow suit, or if not, they
Usually.
You correct
That's
us.
I'm in the same boat as far as 2 out of 3 of those, and the staying on topic is like you have to redirect.
Right, over and over
Because
again.
everybody wants to try that, but then again, somebody is going to say something, or you're going to hear something, and it's like a magnet. If somebody hears something, then folks want to try to chime in, and that's not what we're supposed to